Hi, this is Mike here to talk about some more video games, meeting the rest of the media world that we've been exploring a little bit with my friend Daniel, who works on the Magid TV and movie side and work on the gaming side. So today we're talking about Super Mario. It's his world and we're just living in it. And we have a lot of data to back that up, which is powered by eDNA, which Daniel can tell you a little bit about.
Thanks, Mike. To do a quick recap on Emotional DNA, it's our superpowered system of data and tools that goes beyond the numbers of how many people are watching content, whether it's television or film, and does a deep dive into who's watching, how they watch it, how they respond to it emotionally, and how they engage with that content. And today we're going to look at video game IP through that lens of eDNA.
Yeah, specifically this time we're going to take a look at what happens in the box office space, right? But I think it's really interesting to think about there's these two different worlds, right? So the traditional video game IP is you have this legacy and it's an IP, right? It's a licensing deal. And I think Mario and Sonic are much more in line with that type of old school mentality, but still there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. The great thing about Mario is that it's decades and generations of people, which brings in kids, grandkids, cousins, people that have been familiar with Mario for well over 20 years. And it showed, like, it blew away. It was the biggest box office hit for a video game IP within 5 days. It beat Sonic, right? It's at $1 billion globally. This is a huge hit. And another thing that's really interesting, we talk about this a lot in the gaming team, this idea of IP as a relationship. It's not just about releasing a movie sometimes. So 2 weeks before the movie came out, there was a whole new park in Universal Studios that opened, Super Mario World. And I live here right next to it. And so I know it was packed with people from around the world. And there's also a globalness to this IP, which is very different than some video game IPs. I'd love for you to talk about some of the numbers you see.
All right, so if we take a look at the Emotional DNA snapshot for the movie, this shows how this film resonated emotionally across all audiences. And exactly what you'd expect. He's fun and he's funny and he's exciting, and that you get that from the games, but that's not what they're looking to create in the movies, because it's a very different way that you interact with them as opposed to how you do it with video game content. Yet they seem to hit those same emotional notes, but also expand on them in a linear way, which is a big challenge given that a platformer like Mario and Sonic don't have a lot of story to build on. Yet here, these guys found a way to not only take the core aspects of the video game experience, build on them, and then give them their own unique sort of 3-act structure that works for the film in an entirely unique way that adds upon what you saw in a game.
It's really different than other IP like Resident Evil, Tomb Raider, which are games that were based on story and cutscenes. And so they were trying to ape what film was doing in the era, while Mario and Sonic have always been their own thing.
You know, what's cool with both Mario and Sonic is that both of them score really highly in levity, which is basically a measure of comedy, and adrenaline, which is excitement. So they are effectively action comedies. And there's an old adage that you don't need to translate explosions. And while these are maybe explosion light, they're action heavy, and those work for all audiences. And they're a lot of fun. And there's some wordplay and obviously a ton of Easter eggs, but those work in any language. They do work for a global audience. And it's just a lot of fun for any ages. You get it if you're 7. It's clever if you're 27.
And I think that is, to me, the key to why these are succeeding. And eDNA touches on it so well. That idea of levity and originality are so important. You can be a little bit lower than that, and then your movie's gone. No one wants to see it.
I think you're right. You've got a whole generation of filmmakers who grew up playing with this content and knowing Mario and Sonic like the back of their hands, and they're appreciative of it, but they know that they need to build on it, not just recreate or try to recreate the experience, which you, of course, can't do.
So I think there's an appreciation between the two mediums that transmedia and cross-media has been a word we've been using for a long time. But I actually think we're getting to a place where it works, because it's not just one-to-one. It's take advantage of your medium.
Like, building on what you just said a moment ago about just taking the plot from one and dropping it into the other, you're 100% right. Although, to be fair, I do think the Hoth mission on the N64 Star Wars game was really fun. But looking at what they did with Resident Evil and the earlier Tomb Raider movies, it's not a port, but it feels like a direct port. You're just taking it from one medium and putting it in the other. And it's hard to argue that those weren't big financial successes. But I think in the big scheme of, are these movies that really resonated with an audience? Yeah, they got the jump scares and the excitement, and there were some neat, oh, I did that in the game moments. But I don't think they became a real part of the cultural zeitgeist, and they missed the boat, as it were, with these.
Yeah, I think the proof in the pudding is 5 days in, Mario beat all of them. And Mario is a different case, right? Because it is generational. But there's a way to take that core audience, which is a great foundation for a product, and please them while also making it open to more people. Please send us your questions. We'd love to dive in more to this data in the world of video games and TV and movies. So we're going to keep this going.
Thanks so much, guys.